So, as I said last live stream just yesterday, we are still very, very much on Boris watch. He is under some incredible pressure to go, continuing again this morning with yet more very senior Tory officials saying, it's time, Boris, you know, get going. And we have to look at this very seriously. If Boris doesn't go, will the Tories then go, okay, if Boris isn't going to go by himself, are we going to have to remove him? And I think that's where this could go next. If he doesn't go today, I think that's the question many Tories will now have to be answering and asking themselves. And of course, the big question is, who replaces Boris? Now, I've always said Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss are the two front runners. Those are the two that it's going to be. But of course, during a leadership contest, all sorts of things could happen. Maybe Liz Truss folds under the pressure of the scrutiny of this leadership campaign. Maybe Rishi Sunak does the same as well. Maybe something happens in like next week that completely tarnishes Rishi Sunak's reputation. Maybe he gets caught up in the Partygate scandal. Who knows? But it is undoubtedly, though, that it is probably going to be one of those two that replaces Johnson. But even then, if they do replace Johnson, all the problems that Johnson has created and yet failed to solve are still going to be there. And we're going to go over this one because obviously Rishi Sunak is, of course, one of the people who is touted to replace Boris Johnson, but he is by no means the saviour that many Tories are at the moment craving for. So let's go diving into this article to find out more. And of course, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel. So let's go jumping into this. So this comes from The Guardian with the title of Boris Johnson is doomed, but Rishi Sunak might not be the saviour the Tories crave. Downing Street's May 2020 Bring Your Own Booze party has reignited the despair about Boris Johnson's leadership that the remaining Conservative optimists hoped might disappear over the winter break. Now, though, the blaze has been revived with a vengeance, and Johnson's apology to the Commons does not solve this in any way. The apology merely confirms what was already clear. An astonishingly intensive breach was committed at the height of the first lockdown. This dereliction did not just feature Johnson as a participant, it was marked by his very character. His apology, with its continued preference about a work event with regulations, lacks either moral or without political credibility. Conservative MPs are very well aware that their leader is a dodgy character. Some of them actively admire this. Others are very happy to profit from it. Many loathe it, while quietly despising themselves for even permitting it. But the style works only when it succeeds, and most Tories had put Johnson on probation after his spectacularly disastrous December. And the fresh explosion this week means they are now looking more so than ever for alternatives. Tory MPs find themselves on the threshold of a leadership change. Sue Gray's report will be important in shaping the timing of that outcome, but her findings could very well be a lose-lose for Johnson either way. If Gray blames the Prime Minister, he will struggle to not be brought down directly. If she lets him off the hook in some way, his authority will not be suddenly restored. Tory MPs hold all the cards. All of which explains why the party is moving forward with its third leadership election in just 6 years. The Johnson experiment seems to have almost run its course. It is a remarkable turn of events that Tory party members, demographically so deeply unrepresentative of modern Britain, should ever again be asked to choose the Prime Minister. Johnson was the first PM ever chosen in this way, and it has set a very terrible precedent. Much should now be written about the candidates already quietly vying for the leadership. They were in a row in the row beside Johnson all along the front bench as he tried to eat humble pie at the Prime Minister's questions time. Liz Truss, Dominic Raab, Priti Patel, Sajid Javid and Michael Gove, all of them harbouring hopes of climbing to the top of the greasy pole when Johnson falls, as he surely must now. Yeah, the key figure is the man who rather conspicuously wasn't there at all. Rishi Sunak is the one to beat in this contest. Although he came in just behind Truss in a very recent Conservative home poll by party members, he was ahead of her this week in this week's Sky YouGov survey of members. Critically, according to the Observer opinion poll over Christmas, he would do far better for the Tories in a general election than either Johnson or Truss. That finding will play massively in his favour among MPs. It needs to be saying, though, that the ascent of Sunak would be indeed remarkable. He will be the first person of Asian heritage and the first person of colour to become Prime Minister and to lead a major British political party. That would be another sign, if one were needed, of the immense capacity of the Tory party to adapt to social and cultural change. Other parties can only watch in very frustrated envy. But there is much more to Sunak's success. If this happens, then this, on my bookshelf, stands a copy of historian Robert Blake's biography of the former Conservative leader Andrew Bonar Law. With a near historical symmetry, Bonar Law emerged to become the Tory leader over 100 years ago. The Tory backbench 1922 committee owes its name to the machinations that overthrew David Lloyd George and took Bonar Law to Downing Street. But it is the title of Blake's book that actually matters. It is called The Unknown Prime Minister. It is the title that will soon have to be used again. Sunak may not have risen without a trace, but his ascent will have been unusually rapid. He only entered the Commons back in 2015, succeeding William Hague as MP for Richmond North in Yorkshire. He has only been a minister since 2018, and then he raced up the ministerial ladder after being handpicked by Johnson, with some encouragement from Dominic Cummings, to succeed Javid as his Chancellor less than 2 years ago. And although Sunak has been Chancellor during the greatest peacetime crisis of the modern era, he is extremely inexperienced. This is something that every Tory MP who I'm contacted for this article has remarked on. The honest answer is that we really don't know if he cuts it, said one former cabinet minister. Others fear that Sunak, who is exceptionally wealthy, operates within his own bubble and is far too close to Dominic Cummings, who is keen to destabilise Johnson. This is the particular importance because Sunak's popularity, which was very high when obviously doling out the public money to support the economy during the first phases of COVID, now seems to be ebbing. The return of inflation, the immense tax rises that he announced in the autumn budget, and of course, the exceedingly even bigger hike in energy charges from April are all combining to make Sunak even less voter-friendly minister these days. For the most part, though, Sunak has gone along with Johnson's willingness to spend. But the borrowing and taxation have marked his chancellorship are not popular across the party. A significant minority of Tories remain avid disciplines of the small state, low taxation and privatisation of the Margaret Thatcher era. Most of what Sunak has said since entering politics, to say nothing of his own wealth, suggests that he is broadly sympathetic to this approach too. We have probably all been in a position a bit like the one in which the Tory party finds itself. Something goes bang with your car. You get an estimate done at the garage, and the cost of the repairs seems eye-watering. Do you go ahead throwing good money after bad, or do you start thinking it would just be better to get a whole, non-renewable, reliable vehicle? The answers will not be dazzled by the brochures. And to think before you buy, Johnson's looming failure may be very much his own doing, but its consequences will be felt right across the Tory party and beyond. The electoral coalition that Johnson created in 2019 may not outlive his fall, and Sunak and Truss, the apparent forerunners to succeed, would struggle to maintain the kind of appeal that Johnson has achieved. The Tory party should not deceive itself about Sunak. Electing him would be an act based on hope rather than experience. And given that this is what the party is also did by choosing Johnson, it is something of which they should be very particularly wary of. So that's the 410 on currently Sunak at the moment. And as I said, it's going to come down to Sunak or Truss, Liz versus Rishi. Those are the two who I think are going to be the final two. And we're just going to have to wait and see what happens in this race, and what happens in the coming days as well, especially, are going to be very key. Because if Boris hasn't gone today, it's what, Thursday today, then Tory MPs are now going to have to seriously think about, if Boris won't go on his own accord, do we have to give him the old heave ho? And then, of course, that starts a Tory leadership election, which is going to be incredibly, incredibly brutal, for one thing. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, we'll see you all next time.